Thank you for the 7 of you that continue to watch the top 20. So I kind of rather not do that if I can avoid it. Or I'm just a horrible, hideous ogre. As somebody that's half English, I don't care. Or I won't. Nobody cares. I think if you were addicted to crack the following week, you might have been dancing with it a little bit the prior week. No one wants Tony at an unplugged. I don't know that I'm capable of doing that. There is no way I'm going to be like, hey man, can you give me $1 billion and I'll give you some oil discounts? That should tell you everything you need to know about how much they don't give a shit. The last one is stopping the MAGA agenda. What are you doing? I might not be on your screen, but I am here. Because climate change isn't real and it's not wiping those houses right off into the Gulf, which, honestly, how great of a loss. Way over on the bench over there.
Hard Rock Lunchbox.
Greetings and salutations, everybody. Sorry I'm late. I actually just realized that I forgot the thing that I wanted to talk about. Way over on the bench over there. If you get the joke, you get the joke. That's fine. How's everybody doing today? It is a pretty nice, honestly, June 13th, 2024 out there. There's a Tom Segura special that starts with, I'm here and I'm just completely falling apart. I feel like if I have a spirit animal, it might be Tom Segura, ladies and gentlemen. There are, new lines on my face. I can't tell if it's I know this is great for radio, but I can't tell if it's a shadow, if it's remnants of my beard, or I'm just a horrible, hideous ogre. I'm gonna go with the ogre. This is the part where you run away. I wish I was Scottish. I'm not Scottish. We actually had something interesting happen a few months ago. My oldest girlfriend, Whitney, was Irish for the entire time I've known her, and then she just kind of let me know that she's actually Scottish. I'm like, what are we even doing? Now, as somebody that's half English, I don't care. Or I care a great amount. It's one of the two. I don't know what it is. But yeah, so now I'm obsessed with actually my appearance here. This is awful. I'm sorry to do this to anybody that's watching this on YouTube. Next week, the video will come out at midnight, just like always. And thank you for the 7 of you that continue to watch the top 20. It's funny, if I actually took 7 people that watch the top 20 and added up the amount of time that it takes them to watch it, probably on 1.5 speed, it's probably still less time than the amount of time it takes to produce the top 20. I guess I'll just let that sink in and figure out what we're going to do. Also, I think it's haircut time. I think it's time to cut for the summer. Also, I'm every time I get to the point where I'm going to cut my hair, it's really based on the one thing, just me being very, very tired of having to wear it back all the time, or wearing it in a hat, just constantly something on my head is just annoying. And it's been about maybe 10 years, 9 or 10 years since I cut it short enough where I could actually poof up the top, not that I had bangs. I don't even know what I had, to be perfectly honest. It was funny because I was looking back through some of our old pictures, some of our old photo shoot pictures, because I was using some of those to help make the promo video for Inside. And I was looking, it's my hair was really short, and I've cut it several times since then. I think right now this is as long as it's going to go, which is weird because for years I really did have it all the way down to my butt and stuff like that. It used to get stuck in my belt. That's kind of how long it was. But man, I mean those are definitely over. Everybody I've talked to that's had really long hair like that and doesn't anymore, they're just dude, it was one of the greatest decisions. They all miss their hair or whatever, but in terms of practical usage, it's just... And I know I've been, toying with it for a little while, and I really wanted to try and, slim down a little bit. I know body dysmorphia is like a real thing that like real people have, but like I've got my own flavor of it, and I just have trouble dealing with how I look and my appearance and stuff like that. But like I have been working on it. Like I have been noticeably getting thinner. I just want to look like less bloated. Like I want to be like less all this, like, and just kind of get to a place where I just look a little healthier and maybe like a little cleaner, a little thinner, and then I think it'll shape my head better. Because I think if I just try and do it now, I'm like so bloated, I'll just look like either like one of those rounder pumpkins that you see around Halloween, or just something even worse. But I don't know. Yeah, so why don't we just kind of move on to some like housekeeping, and then I'll go grab the thing I really wanted to talk about way over on the bench there, because that's where I was, way over on the bench. And I will, we'll just get this show rolling, right? Sound good? So the new top 20 is out today, and if you missed it, I really could not recommend just checking it out more. It's called Life is a Simmer. It's episode 180. Episode 179. And it's called Life is a Simmer, and it's where I'm just sort of talking about these baselines that I'm just seeing so many people that are at, like just these higher levels of anxiety and stress, so that you can't handle the normal stuff. Like, you want to know why people are flying off the handle at stuff that's like seemingly kind of benign and innocent. It's because their resources are completely tapped dealing with the everyday stuff. Like the trick really, and I don't know the numbers, but the trick really is like, let's get the everyday stuff down to like 0 or 20% or whatever, and then you can kind of handle that stuff. Like, so I think it's an important episode. I try and talk about something that's serious, and usually it's something personal, but like this one I find is particularly serious and probably important for other people to hear, because even if just other people are like, that's where I'm at too, then it does that thing that I'm always big on, which is making sure that people know that they're not alone, because that really is kind of my big thing, like just the whole feeling alone and the lack of safe spaces and all that other stuff. Like, that's when you see me spiral is when that's happening. Like, because there's just no... I think my quote on Facebook, remember when that was a thing? My quote on Facebook is probably still the lyric from Train, when there is like no safe space to lay my head, like that. Like, no space safe and no safe space to lay my head. It's just... I'll find it. I'll play it later today or something, or I won't. Like, nobody cares. Nobody really cares what I do. I just think for anybody that needs it, that's probably the episode to watch. Not to make you feel bad, not to drag you down, but to just sort of, be illustrative of those kinds of problems and what my particular insight has led me to think, and maybe it's the same for you. So, that's Life at a Simmer, episode 179, of course, only on Stranger TV, so check that out. It is funny, I have been noticing the shorts, as I've been talking less and less about politics, the shorts are back into like the 400 view or whatever. As soon as I talk about politics, I'm at 1,000, 5,000, 10,000. Which is funny, because I'm going to talk about politics a little bit today, but it's probably like a different take and maybe not what you're expecting, so... but in other housekeeping news, Revel 9 has its last single from the last batch is coming out tomorrow. I'm trying to remember what the thought process was for putting Inside last. I don't really remember. I know that Side Out was supposed to be first. Side Out, in my opinion at the time, was the greatest song Revel 9 had put out, in terms of just sort of energy and movement and size and, whatever. It was just a powerful way to kind of come back after Do No Harm. And it's true in groove and mood and all that other stuff. Like, the thing with Do No Harm is that there's a lot of low mental state stuff there. That's why the record is just so dark. Like, it just is. Like, there is literally no uplifting song on the record, in my opinion. I mean, maybe there is for you, whatever your takeaway is. I do not want to step on that, but it was like a really dark record. And the thing that was important about Side Out is that it was so aggressively rhythmic and kind of back to my roots of writing, and it's all about kind of like balance and just sort of like settling where you're at and stopping the bleed, honestly, is what Side Out's always been about. And so it was super important for me to put that out first. It had been 3 years since we put out a song, and it seemed appropriate for that. But the rest of them were just kind of like, well, what are we kind of feeling here, and tempo-wise and stuff like that. Like Aaliyah was actually supposed to be last. Aaliyah was supposed to be last. So I do remember the thought process. Aaliyah was supposed to be last of the batch, but the way I work it with the band is that while we're recording stuff and while we're releasing stuff, I no longer play it in the set. I made an exception. I made one exception at our last show to play Run Through Me because Kaz was like, we really should play that again, because arguably, of the songs that are being recorded, I think Run Through Me is probably now going to be one of the best and hardest of the Revel 9 songs. It's certainly the Side Out of this batch, and I think Run Through Me is a better song than Side Out, which is great. Like, as a writer, I'm super jazzed that I can honestly look back upon that. Like, it's one thing that when you write a brand new song, it's like, what's my favorite song, right? Like I have one coming up called When I'm Gone that is just disastrous. Like, but it's going to be a really, really good song, I think. I still have to track the vocals for it, but it's got all those elements and stuff, and you're going to hear it and immediately be like, well, that's a Revel 9 song for sure. But Aaliyah was supposed to be last, but I really wanted to get it back in the set, and since I don't play songs in the set until it's out, I think it was prudent to release it before Inside, because Inside we've only played a couple of times live, so people weren't really clamoring for it. People were absolutely asking for Aaliyah, so it seemed like the right thing to do. But anyway, so Inside is the last of that batch, the first run of stuff we did with producer David Caggiano. I think it came out really, really well. It's based on a Kaz riff, which is nice for the band to actually have something that's not just completely DJ based, because it adds something. It adds like a dimension, right? Like now I always work the songs, and I'll, Lindsey Buckingham my way through anything that kind of comes through Revel 9, and then once I'm kind of done working with it, we kind of turn it over to the producer, we turn it over to Dave, and then we kind of work it more. But it's based on like the intro riff, even though I play it, it's a Kaz riff and stuff like that. But it's one of those things where like I write the chorus and I write the bridge and stuff, but that intro is just the main part of the song. It's all Kaz. So that's a good thing. It's a good thing for him, I think. I don't actually know. I mean, as somebody that's been in, like, I've been in bands where like they didn't want to do songs that I've written, and it's rough, right? Like it's a rough kind of thing. So I'm very open to when my band members come up with something that they want to write. Like I try and be encouraging. Like I always try and be encouraging. Like sometimes it's not applicable, right? Like, Kaz has written some stuff where it's like, I just don't really know what to do with it. I've got another song idea from him that's sitting in my, on my phone, and I listen to it every now and then, but to be perfectly fair, I have stopped writing for the current time. One, because it's just a bad time for me to write, but also I have 2 songs that are done that I need to record vocals on, and if I don't get those done, I think it's going to be a loss. So I just trying to focus my energies on that. I'm hoping once the show is done, I will pull some time out of my schedule, even if it's rehearsal schedule, just to go record those, to get those up and running. Because as of right now, we don't have anything else on the calendar. The Lucy show we were going to do fell through. We have the 21st with Off the Turnpike, Craving, and Something Heavy at the Village Pub. And if you're listening and you're at all interested, like that really looks like it could be the last Revel 9 show for a little while. There might be an unplugged situation coming up, and that might be just me and Kaz and stuff like that, and that's fine. Or I don't think Tony's in town, but I might try and put something together. I'm sort of tired of like waiting for everybody else to kind of just be like, let's put this together. So I have the ability to build a show if I want it, so I might just do it. And I'll just ask around, and whoever wants to play can play. I'll just do that. But I don't have anything currently for full band for a little while, and that's by design. It's to give me the opportunity to kind of again balance and reset, but also I'm exhausted from the strain of doing shows and stuff like that. And I know that sounds silly and probably stupid, but it's kind of where I'm at. Like the anxiety that just rides me before a show, no phrasing, is just just getting too much. And, you know, I don't have the resources to handle it anymore. And that was kind of what I was talking about last week in Life at a Simmer. So that's what's coming on. Inside comes out tomorrow. It's streaming everywhere. I did not get a chance to finish the lyric video, unsurprisingly. But I will have that out in a couple of weeks because I think that's important, since most people do listen to our music on YouTube these days that aren't listening to it on Spotify, and then the show and all that other stuff. So I'm going to go get the piece of paper that I said I was going to go talk about, because I have a few minutes left in the top 20 and I think it's worth talking about. So I'm just over here now. I might not be on your screen, but I am here. Let me just try and not look so fat as I enter the frame again. All right, good. So, yes, no one wants Tony at an unplugged. Chat coming in hot today. So, I just kind of want to talk about this for a second. If you can see this, yeah. So, I am a registered, it doesn't really matter what I am. But I have mailing lists from politicians that I have supported. Not necessarily financial, but there's a handful of politicians I've supported financially. But I got to tell you, I don't think I have done it in the past 8, maybe 12 years. Mainly because I'm just tired of politicians and their constant pandering and, you know, the money grab. I really wanted, I think I talked about this once before, but there was a time in my younger adult life where there was really a push for publicly funded elections. And I know that everyone's like, well, they're all publicly funded. No. Where you can only accept donations from this publicly donated part. And you'll probably see it on your taxes if you do your taxes. If you do, you know, depending on your form, where you can donate $1 or whatever to the presidential campaign or whatever. Or political campaign. I don't even remember. Honestly, I don't want to sound all bougie, but I haven't done my taxes in forever because they're too complicated. I own a couple of businesses and I have different incomes, and it's too complicated. If I had the time, maybe I'd like to figure it out, but I will say the last tax return I got from my accountant this past year was 50 pages long. So I don't know that I'm capable of doing that, right? I don't know what you know about me, but not only have I not passed the CPA, I actually never did really good in accounting. It's one of the things I'm not so good at, and I think it's because adding a positive number to a debit account, because it's just banana. It just defies all law. Me and Newton and Copernicus are we are all out. So God bless the accountants in the world, and God bless the accountants that are listening to this show, because you are doing something that I cannot do. I can write a pretty cool riff, and maybe you can't do that. Maybe you can, but what I can't do particularly well is balance, the GL accounts on something without some input and some help. Because again, adding a positive number to a debit account because it's actually a negative is just. Anyway, so I'm on a bunch of mailing lists, Republican and Democrat, politicians that I'm interested in what they are doing. And because of that, I am on the mailing list of both of my New York senators, Kirsten Gillibrand and Chuck Schumer. I am, or was, on the mailing list of Stephen Israel when he was still our member of Congress. I don't even know who my member of Congress. It might be Steve Stern. I don't know. But so I follow them mainly because I want to keep an eye on them, and I encourage, honestly, everybody to do that. If you live in New York, you should be on Hochul's mailing list. You should be on, your senators, Schumer and Gillibrand. You should be on your representative. If you can even deep dive and get into your state senators and your assemblymen. The reason I say that is because it's important to keep an eye on what they're doing and what they think their agenda is. I have been in the, probably rare situation where I've emailed my senators, cold called them and been like, hey man, can you fix this? Now, I never get a response, which is why they never get any money from me. So, but anyway, the public elections. That would take all corporate money and big PAC money out of elections, which I think would be super important. Because if everybody had to run their elections based on the $500,000 they get from this fund, we'd have much different elections. Plus, everybody could do it, which I think would be important. Because a lot of the reasons people don't run for office is because it's constant fundraising. And if you're somebody like me that can't even ask for money for a CD that I've spent money to produce and create my entire life's work, there is no way I'm going to be like, hey man, can you give me $1 billion and I'll give you some oil discounts or whatever, or I'll roll back some whatever Trump is going to do with the big rollback things with oil. But I wanted to just kind of glance through this because what I thought was interesting, and this is why it's important, is the letter I got from Schumer on behalf of the Democrats in Congress right now, or in the Senate, was basically this: what do you want our Democratic majority to focus on? Like, first of all, and then they hit you with, like, you realize we're probably going to lose this seat because we have one that's in real danger and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, I know that. But if you were doing things that were a little bit more popular and acceptable to the bulk of people in the middle, you probably wouldn't be in that danger. So that's my thought. I just thought it was interesting because the things that they list, first of all, they include an other and then don't ask what the other is. So that should tell you everything you need to know about how much they don't give a shit about what you're really thinking, because it is so, as a programmer, I know how easy it is to just add a box. If other, please enter here. But they don't care, right? So they just put up, like, what do you want us to think? And what it is the playbook of what the Democrats think are important to other Democrats. And it might be true, it might not be true. I will say Dems are not doing so great in the polls, so maybe that's not the right play, and maybe they need somebody like me to kind of step up and tell them, like, hey man, what's important to me? Because I will actually ask and listen. And I will tell you, over the past couple of months, I've really been talking to a bunch of people that are just to the right of center, and I find myself more and more to the left of center. I've talked about how the extreme left has really just left me in the dust because it's just not my issue. But anyway, so here's the list of things. So they want to codify Roe v. Wade and abortion rights. Now, I think that's a good idea. I don't think it's something the Senate should do. I don't think it's something the Senate can do. I honestly don't think the federal government can do it since until they fix the Supreme Court, which is not on here, by the way, until they fix the Supreme Court and get a more representative kind of lean on stuff and handle all the ethics things that are going on. I mean, the report about Clarence Thomas just the other day accepting roughly like $2 million in gifts over the past 10 years is just effing bananas to me. And nobody, the next one that comes close was former Justice Antonin Scalia, and he's dead. Like, he was second, he's dead, and he was still like 10 times less than Clarence Thomas. I mean, that is bananas, the amount of money that Clarence Thomas is there. I wish he would have just taken John Oliver up on that Winnebago, because that would have been fantastic. But yeah, so I think it should be a state thing, and I think it should be a state thing because I think you can get it done in the states. So many states have basically codified reproductive freedom in their constitutions, and I think that that's probably the way to go about it. And then if you don't like the rules of your state, you can either fight to change it or you can leave. Now, I know it's not super easy to leave, but honestly, if I lived in a state that was restricting my freedom, I mean, thank God the Supreme Court just tossed out that mifepristone case, because that would have been a federal nightmare. But if you live in a state that's anti everything you agree with, women's rights, reproductive freedom, LGBTQ stuff, unions, labor freedom, all that, if you live in that state, I think it's probably time to consider bouncing from that state. But that's neither here nor there. So there's that. They want to codify Roe v. Wade. They want to know, it's a checkbox. They want to know what I think they should focus on. Codifying Roe, protecting reproductive freedoms like IVF, contraception. Right. Was it, it's the Griswold versus Connecticut, right? That's the anti-sodomy law, or that's the thing that basically allowed for privacy. I mean, the Supreme Court has already said that they're looking to strike it down. They just need the right case to do that. And once they do that, they're going to get rid of, they're going to get rid of those reproductive freedoms, and I don't think the federal government is ever going to be able to protect those things. So again, I think that's another state issue. Fighting climate change, it's not going to happen. There's no way to curb climate change. All these goals and stuff that people are asking for, it just doesn't matter because people don't believe in the science. If you want to fight climate change, how about just doing some real education, real honest to God old school PSAs? Bring back the Saturday morning, I'm just a bill, and it just be I'm just a polar bear without an ice cap to hang out on. Protecting worker rights, always important. Again, I think it's more of a state thing because you have states like, North Carolina that are right-to-work states, and all that right-to-work states mean is that they take the teeth out of unions because you can be in a union, but you don't have to pay dues to it, and then the union gets weaker and weaker and weaker. So as long as the states are able to do that, I think at the federal level, it's probably pretty stupid. Expanding voter rights and ending voter suppression. Again, the Supreme Court has already gutted the Voting Rights Act. I don't know what it is you expect to do, because if you pass another rule like that, the Supreme Court, as it is just going to shut it down. So I think it's a waste of time. Enacting gun safety laws, same deal there. Fixing our broken immigration system. Now, that is something I can get behind, and that is actually something that Congress should be doing. The Senate and the House have both shit the bed on that completely, and so badly and so magnificently in the way they've just done it lately, because the Republicans actually put forth a really good and comprehensive immigration bill, and then Trump killed it. And, he got the Republicans to vote against their own bill. It was actually, for me, probably one of the funniest parts of the State of the Union, where Biden, who was awake for some reason, actually said something like, hey, man, we had a really good bill, this really good Republican bill, and then people booed him, and he was like, oh, you don't like it now? You don't like your own bill? That shit used to go on with Obama, and Obama used to say, the minute I was on board with something the Republicans wanted, the Republicans would kill it. Because the Republicans, honestly, in Congress, are pandering, and they're just petulant children. And now that they're all, kissing the ring of Donald Trump, they're just afraid to get primaried out. And I don't blame them. I understand if you want to stay in power and you've got some megalomaniac that has an infinity stone and they can get rid of you with a snap, you want to keep your job, you got to keep your job. I understand. It's one of the reasons I cannot stand politics anymore. But anyway, so I believe in that. Decriminalizing marijuana, I don't care. I really don't care on the federal level. The states that are doing it are doing well. New York, it's completely legal. You can go buy it if you want. We got recreational, weed wherever you can get it. I mean, it's in they're talking about how hard it is because all these bodegas are selling all the recreational weed. So it's not really a problem I have to deal with. And again, if you live in a place that it's illegal and you really want to smoke pot, I think you're going to have to move. And that's okay. Or fight in your state to get it legalized, which is what I would truly recommend. Ending racial inequality and injustice. Good effing luck, Senate. There is just there is no way. Again, it's all about education. It's all about the bottom feeders and the mouth breathers that we keep putting out that just feel the way they want to feel and just believe what they want to believe, and they have no problem with lie after lie after lie, just swallowing it as long as they agree with it. It's fine. Advancing LGBTQ equality. I know this is really controversial, and people don't like when I say this, but I've kind of had enough of it for a little while. I needed to pause just a little bit, and we can talk about that at another time when I have more. And then, of course, the last one is stopping the MAGA agenda. What are you doing? Why? There is no stopping the MAGA agenda, right? They have their leader, and he keeps saying all this nonsense. He gets called out for lies all the time. He's going to be a bad president if he gets reelected, because he was a bad president the first time he was elected. Everybody talks to me about how low gas prices were during Donald Trump. It's because nobody was going anywhere because we were all locked down in a quarantine because he couldn't handle it. Talk about what a great, international businessman he was. He was starting a goddamn trade war with China. The only reason he got out of that is because of COVID, and nothing was moving anywhere. Starting a trade war with China, especially on the steel tariffs, was going to kill American industry. And everything that they're doing to the farmers is just bananas anyway. But nobody wants to hear that from me, and nobody wants to hear that from anybody. They just think, oh, it was so great because he hated Mexicans, and he really hates liberals. So that's... I wish more Republicans would just be a little bit more honest about that kind of stuff. And, people are, we export more oil. We export more oil now than we did under Trump. So let's just stop that lie right now, okay? So, there's more fossil fuels, available because we've approved drilling. We have licenses the companies haven't done yet. And everyone's like, let's just, drill in Alaska and ruin Alaska. People like me actually like having a little wilderness. So how about we not? Anyway, point is that Of all these things, the only thing I think they should be working on at all is fixing our broken immigration system, and they just aren't. I don't know why the Dems aren't. I know Biden just put an executive order to limit the asylum seekers, which I think is a good start. I still think it's too many. I think asylum seekers on a weekly basis should be 10. That's just me, until we get things under control and sort out how it all works, because I'm tired of dumping resources into things that we don't have the resources for. But what really pissed me off the most is that the issues that matter to me aren't even on this goddamn list. Like, first and foremost, I think the Supreme Court needs to be fixed. I think there needs to be some ethical things and ethical concerns addressed. And until there are, like, we don't have a highest court of the land that's respected or like even regarded well. I mean, people talk about weaponizing the judicial system, the DOJ and stuff like that over the Trump thing. By the way, nobody said shit about Hunter Biden getting convicted, on all of his felonies, and I think he should have. Just like I think Trump should have gotten convicted on all his felonies. You could think what he did shouldn't be a crime, but until you're making those laws, you don't get to say. Like, it's a law, he broke it, it's a felony, he's a felon. Like, and that's true, and Biden did the same thing. Like, he lied on a federal application to get a gun. Probably. I mean, he says he wasn't addicted to crack that week, which I think is a very interesting defense to make, but, like, that's what he went with. And the jury was like, I think if you were addicted to crack the following week, you might have been dancing with it a little bit the prior week, which is fine. Like, I think, even Biden came out, he's like, I'm not going to step in and, this is what the court said. So nobody's weaponizing the DOJ, but the Supreme Court has absolutely been weaponized because they have these stated goals and they're taking money from conservative donors that have these goals, and you have Supreme Court justices like Thomas and Alito that are taking cases before them that they've received gifts from. Like, that's a violation of even their shit code of ethics, and they're still doing that. So I think maybe the Senate should look into fixing the Supreme Court before they try and do any of those other things. Also, there's no mention in here of inflation and how they're going to ratchet some of that down. Nothing. Nothing at all. And, like, rising auto insurance also. Like, they just raised auto insurance across the country 10 to 20%. And, of course, in the great state of New York, it's 25%. Why don't we get that under control? The housing insurance in Florida, you can't even really get it most of the time anymore because it's a disaster zone, because climate change isn't real and it's not wiping those houses right off into the Gulf, which, honestly, how great of a loss is that anyway? But also, they talk about access to health care. Like, that is not a real thing. Everybody has access to health care. Everybody. You can walk into a Doc in the Box any time of day. You can walk into an ER any time of day. What is the problem with health care is the unbelievable cost of it. Like, you want to fix something? Fix that. Bring the cost down. Because when Dems talk about let's expand health care, that's let's give people that don't have a lot of money let's give them health care for free. But you know what? The people that work for a living and have just barely enough money, we don't get health care for free. I don't even get my health care subsidized, right? Like, I would love to have my extra $25,000 a year I get to spend on health care. I would love to, because I can't get state aid because I make too much money. But, like, too much money in New York is, like, not really too much money at all. So if you really want to get, like, access to health care, just make it affordable so people can actually go. I've had life-saving tests done over the past couple of years. I've had to pay for every single one of them, right? Like, thank God for Charlotte still being a student. At least her checkups are covered. I think that's probably a good start. But how about we just, instead of making that covered, that we all pay for it kind of collectively, how about we just bring those prices down, and then we can actually talk about what access to healthcare looks like when people can afford to get the tests that they want to get done. People can afford to get the procedures that they want to get done. I mean, when I was back on state aid and stuff like that, they were not covering the kidney stone procedure I needed. And they basically told me, well, you just have to pass it. Well, passing stones has landed me in the hospital for surgery twice. So I kind of rather not do that if I can avoid it. But I also can't afford $18,000 out of pocket for a single procedure. You know what I mean? So why don't we worry about that? And I've now talked way too long, and I'm super sorry about that. I was trying to say something, and of course I said everything because it's kind of what I do. So you can tell just by my sheer level of anxiety, or you can tell by the sheer volume of words that I'm throwing at you, just how high my anxiety is today. I'm going to try and ratchet that back down. And try and put on a good show. I've got good music for you. I got new music for you. I got a special surprise at the end, probably. But let's just get everything started, because if I don't get it started, I probably never will.